Andrea Tessmann, can I begin our show this way? I have a new way to
Sure.
open. Okay.
What are you going to start with?
Yeah, Breaker 19. This year's the Rubber Duck. You got a copy on me, Pigpen? Come on. Yeah, 10-4 Pigpen for sure. By golly, it's clear to Flagtown. Come on, yeah, it's a big 10-4 there, Pigpen. Yeah, we definitely got the front door, good buddy. Mercy Six alive. Looks like we've got us a convoy. CW McCall did it better than
Convoy.
Yes!
How many times did you practice that?
Including that one. And it showed.
Well, you did a pretty good job.
Oh, thank you. January 10th, 1976. The world might have been going to see the movies. If they did, they would have saw a pretty good film that I liked a lot. Dog Day Afternoon, starring Al Pacino. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Oh, that is a good one.
It is.
Yeah.
On television, the American world was getting ready because the Bionic Woman was going to debut in a few days. No?
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
why not? Bionic Woman.
Yeah.
And if you were listening to the radio, or maybe CB radio, you might have been hearing Convoy by CW McCall. A song really about a fad, kind of, sort of, and classified under a weird subgenre that I don't think really exists, called truck driver country.
It seems like it was a subgenre for a while.
I think this is its own genre, all to its own. This, and we've done this before, Andrea, this is a snapshot of an era. This cannot exist any other time other than the late 70s. It can't.
Absolutely not. No. So we can talk about why that is. That is because this trucker culture thing that sprung up because CB radios were cheap entertainment, really.
Yep.
I mean, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it's the equivalent of me sitting at home chatting with random strangers on the internet. Just the 1970s version of
That's what it was.
Of Facebook, or of if we go back to the 90s of IRC chat, maybe.
This was this is a precursor to that. This was literally social media. This was a way that a lot of people met each other, sometimes for the first time. I think there was a really shitty movie with Paul Walker where they were trying to seduce where he pretended to be some girl and seduced a truck driver. I didn't look this up because I didn't think I was this even entered my memory banks, but I'm sure that this happened where people were sort of hooking up via CB radio. And if you were
people will hook up via pretty much anything, so I'm sure it happened.
I'm sure it did. But if you were a truck driver, it was also a great way to sort of like figure out what was lying ahead. I mean, this was your GPS.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
your radar
your
scanner,
radar. Yep.
Everything.
So to get there, we had to look at this interesting guy, CW McCall, born Bill Fries, or Freeze. I don't know how he pronounces his name. I didn't bother to look it up. I'm assuming it's Freeze because I don't think he wanted to say, yeah, I'm Bill Fries. Oh, like French fries? Never heard that before.
Yeah, I assumed Freeze, but whatever.
But yeah, so an ad man who in his mid 40s comes up with the biggest genius thing that he'd ever come up with and used his own voice for it. I sent you the video of this. I don't actually remember this commercial, but apparently it was a big deal in 1973 or 74. So this ad for Old Home Bread. I don't even know what Old Home Bread is. I never even heard of it. But the ads featured a driver named CW McCall. And he was flirting with this waitress named Mavis. And as he's hauling bread around,
very, very suggestively.
Oh, God.
Very suggestively.
No, Mavis was the one who wanted it more, Andrea. Come on.
Oh, I think it was pretty obvious that they both were happy to be snowed in there.
They were, and if it taught anyone who was young and needed to learn lessons in 1973, it was like, relatively attractive waitresses will go for less attractive looking truck drivers. You just have to haul a bunch of bread around.
And be the only customer in their shop in a snowstorm.
Yes, that also helps. I mean, I know that I myself am a lot better looking when there's no one else around. It helps me out. It's certainly done particularly well. When I traveled into other countries that is not predominantly full of white pasty people, I'm not Joe Exotic, but
you're downright ethnic.
I guess so. Can you call it that if you're in a different place? I guess you could. I have to be careful. My white privilege is showing, but yeah, I think that's accurate. And as I'm watching this commercial, and obviously I knew that you and I would both sort of laugh at this. And for those who want to sort of look at it, it's really easy to find. Just old homebred commercial, 1973 or 1974, and it'll come right up. And it's this 1 minute commercial. I don't know how well it sells bread. I think, frankly, very poorly because
apparently they were wildly popular. He did a couple of them. I saw 2 different ones.
Okay, I missed the second one. I didn't know there was a second.
And they were, I don't know how well they sold bread, but they were super popular for a TV commercial. And I can it's amusing and it's very a little naughty because there's obvious over the top flirtation going on between these varying levels of attractive people, and
varying levels of attractive people. Sorry, I just love the way
she's definitely got a couple levels above him.
I thought so.
But then the 70s people had a different aesthetic.
Yeah, but I also thought, and this won a Clio Award, which is the Oscar equivalent for commercials. It did make me think, because this is the 70s, right? So predominantly more women would be out buying the groceries. Were they turned on by this trucker and think, you know what, I'm going to go get this bread and maybe I'm going to have a homely looking trucker with no other options sort of come to my door if I buy this bread. But I don't think women thought in terms like that. I don't think any of us did. We should have. Because this is around the same time as you're having my baby, so maybe they were. And we talked all about that.
That's true, we did.
Yeah.
But so he gets some success with these commercials and then decides that he's going to invent this person. Mm-hmm. And then so we should go back a little bit to how this is a specific moment in time. This is 1975, the fuel crisis in the States. They put in a 55 mile an hour mandatory maximum speed limit across the entire country.
All across the USA. Sorry.
And then also, the CB radios were becoming popular because they were obviously used by truckers. They were not regulated like ham radios or other things. So you didn't need a license. You could just chat with people. And I guess they were, sorry, my dog's barking at me.
I guess if you're a trucker, and I don't know this for sure, but I think a lot of them are set up as independent contractors. So if they're responsible for their own fuel, and I think they are, I could be mistaken on that, and please someone tell me one way or the other. I
believe you are correct. Okay. They own their rig. They
and they're paid for the haul.
May or may not own what they're towing,
right,
depending on how they're set up. And they're basically a contractor. They're paid to do a job, which is why they're forced for mandatory sleep breaks and things like rest breaks, because it's in their best interest to get something from point A to point B as quickly as possible. So if you impose speed restrictions on them, you're going to piss them off. And that was, I think, the whole setup of this song. So CW McCall, this newly invented musician, buys a CB radio, and he and his friend listen to the truckers to learn the lingo. And then he writes a song using almost entirely trucker lingo in the first person as though he's talking over the radio. Because he's not singing.
No.
The only singing in it is the backup singers going, "We got a big old convoy."
That's the worst part of the song.
And it's so happy. Even though they're talking about blowing through barricades and, like, potentially killing people. Even though that's never actually implied in the song. But you're like,
you're
literally talking about running people over.
Yeah, and I think even like going back to that too, just while I'm thinking of that, and I could be mistaken, but I think also if you're going faster, if you're doing like 65 steady over 55 steady, you're conserving gas. So if it's coming out of your pocket, so like there's a bit of that. So yeah, his first hit, this guy going back just a little bit, was actually from that song, from that commercial, officially called "Old Home, Fill Her Up, and Keep on Truckin' Cafe." Try to say that 5 times fast. Minor hits on the country.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So technically, and I bring this up because he's not technically a one-hit wonder, but he had others: Wolf Creek Pass, Black Bear Road, and if you listen to those, and I don't think anyone else here will, it's the same thing that sort of happens. It's McCall's spoken word with this this super happy, have to be. I just picture them as white with bouffant hairdos in those Lawrence Welk get-ups, you know, that used to be the background singers, just like super happy. And it just doesn't fit with anything that he's doing. But whatever.
Yeah.
His voice, though, is that not incredible? Like, it's one of the best voices I've ever heard. It's meant for commercial jingles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he definitely, like, found a niche that worked for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A niche that nobody even knew people wanted.
You know who is kind of a bit more modern-ish, but definitely not modern, is it kind of reminded me of Lyle Lovett, except Lyle can also sing. But that spoken country song kind of style.
You've just solved it. Julia Roberts is a young kid, saw those commercials, and that's why she wound up with Lyle Lovett. Did that not blow your mind when that happened, when those two were dating and married?
Oh, I think everybody was shocked by that one.
And I
gotta say, though, he's a very talented man.
Sure. Absolutely he's talented, but... How the hell did that...
Anyway, back to the song.
Yes.
So, you mentioned the movie. There was a movie made of this song.
2 years later.
Which you watched, and I did not.
Well,
but I saw
lucky.
clips of it in the music video of the song, and it basically looked like it was just a bunch of truckers driving through buildings and jumping cars.
Not far off, yeah. I watched a lot of, like, also too, and there was quite a few examples I could have, and I got bored after the third one because it was him just lip syncing in different places, and it's kind of funny because he'll open up the lip sync and he's speaking into the hammer or the CB radio. That just thankfully it's there, you know. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. One of the clips I saw was him doing this at Hee Haw, which. At some point, we have to break down Hee Haw. A show that neither of us, I'm sure, I'm speaking for you here, and maybe I shouldn't. I never got its appeal, but that lasted for well over 20 years, and if you were into country music like my French grandpa was, you watched Hee Haw. And there's CW in the clip doing, he's not doing this in front of like barrels of hay, like you remember a lot of them do, or whatever with his band. No, he's lip syncing in Lulu's cafe, while all the other patrons and Lulu is watching him sing or speak or lip sync speak, while he brought a CB radio in with him. Which I thought that's sort of an interesting thing to bring into a cafe. Of course, no one was eating there either.
I never got into Hee Haw, so I can't really tell you. But yeah, I just assume that it's the only image I have of it is them singing in front of some bales of hay. So It's a bit of an odd stretch.
Well, it is, but the other thing too, I have never really looked at this guy before in great detail or thought about it. But holy shit, he looks like if John Denver just all of a sudden became a raging alcoholic and did a bunch of coke nonstop for 2 years. And then just woke up and then woke up and said, "Thank God I kept my voice. I can't sing anymore, but pass me that light brown leather jacket. Come on." So kudos to this guy though. After 40 and he gets a number one hit, a huge hit, not everywhere. Went number one in our native land of Canada. I tried to see if it landed in Britain, and no, not at all. And of course not. This is not one of those American songs that's going to translate. But you never know. So I thought I'd check out, and it didn't. He kept performing for quite a bit. Had a couple other minor hits on the country thing, but he just kept running with this. With what was his other album? Just I think Ballad of the Rubber Duck. I think, which is the main character of Convoy. I'm getting the album title wrong, but he just kept running with it. Apparently, he also did stuff about the environment.
Didn't he also do a pirate flavored sequel to Convoy? Something like Round the World with Rubber Duck?
That's what it was called. So he just sort of ran with the top character he had. As to what that really did, I don't quite know. But the one song I did find very interesting. So there won't be no country music, there won't be no rock and roll, where he's singing about the environment. I think a lot of people didn't pick up on that. And I guess when we go back to Convoy, so we have a song that only makes sense to a trucker. So what was it about this song that made people want to learn more about it? I was talking to my dad, because, hey, Dad, hope you're listening. Better be, because I'm going to quiz you next week. Anyway. and this is one of the few songs he remembers, because, as I mentioned, he's not into music, but he remembered this one, and he told me about his memories of CB radio. Were actually fairly recent, because he used to have one in his first Volkswagen when they traveled across Mexico, my parents, when they retired in the late 90s. So we'd still listen to that just to be entertained, my mom and my dad. So I thought that was sort of interesting. But I think it was just hearing this brand new language, and you're thinking about trucks, and if you're a guy, or not specific to a guy, but I mean just car crashes and shit like that.
I think also it tells a story. It's not a traditional ballad, but it still is. It's a form of a ballad. Mm-hmm. It has a start, it has a storyline, mm-hmm. and it has an ending, basically. It's even if you can't understand what they're saying, I think it's intriguing, because it's this weird, different pseudo-language, and I think it really does draw people in to be like, oh, wait, what does that mean? What is he saying? And you can kind of translate and guess at it, and it makes you want to listen to it more. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the era where, people were getting into listening to CB radios and it was becoming a thing, as you said, it's a form of social media. It gave you some insight into this unknown world of strangers over the airwaves. And I don't know. I think it's kind of catchy and fun in a stupid way.
Yes, because both can be true.
Which is, I guess, what makes a great ad. Like he's definitely got something going for him in terms of marketing the song.
And if anyone would have known how to market it, it was him. I don't think he had to do that much, though. He just established himself just enough that he could get something on the radio. And at that point in time, really for this matter now, other than him doing anything, I can't think of any other song like it.
So I was reading a bit about the trucker culture in the 70s, mm-hmm. and it became a thing. And the truckers would form convoys, and they would travel together for companionship, but also for safety, and also because they didn't want to obey these dumb new speed limits. And if they all drove in a convoy, the cops couldn't pull all of them over. So it gave them a bit of, different people would take the ticket for the team. And then they would also, they'd protest and they'd form roadblocks and they'd do all sorts of things. But it was a form of protest at the time, peaceful protest. And then later in 79, I think, when they had another round of fuel crisis, the truckers basically formed pseudo unions and went on strike, and it got violent, and they were shooting at the trucks of the truckers that kept working, and they were ultimately people died, and people lost interest as this peaceful protest, interesting culture kind of became violent. The masses lost the appeal of it and moved on to the next fad.
Mm-hmm. I think the best line is from the film Ted, starring Mark Wahlberg, a former person that we've discussed.
Marky
Mark, yes. Narrated by Patrick Stewart, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said. But as happens with everything, no one gave a shit. Eventually,
That's
no one gives a shit.
Great line.
Yeah, I'm forgetting exactly what it said, but sooner or later, we stopped giving a shit. And that's kind of what happened here, but still in the late 70s. I mean, look what it spawned. I mean, the Dukes of Hazzard, I think, is a bit off of this. And we talked about the movie, Convoy, which kind of was a mess. Not kind of was a mess. It was a mess. I watched that this morning, kind of. I'm going to say kind of because I fast-forwarded through a bunch of shit because I just couldn't. I was getting a little bit bored, and I was reading about a bit of why it all got messed up. The year before, do you ever see Smokey and the Bandit?
Yep.
Okay, so
which they reference in this song with the Bears,
right? So I'm sure that's also maybe didn't hurt. That's where a lot of this name sort of came from. So and they're using the CBs, all that. Smokey and the Bandit becomes like I'm not sure if it's actually commercially the biggest hit of Burt Reynolds' career, which says something. But if it's not, it's close to. So this is in the works, and kudos to CW. I guess that means country western, don't you think?
Oh, never thought about that, but you're probably right.
Yeah, I would think. I don't know. So off the success of that, they're thinking, okay, so we've got to make this funnier. Or we've got to do a little bit more car crashes. Now, I can get the car crashes. When you're trying to do something kind of funny and you're Sam Peckinpah and you're known for grit and violence, it doesn't work. And apparently I was reading that Peckinpah, a lot of his friends said, like, why the hell are you taking this? But apparently he was like super into coke at the time. Anyway, the movie, when it finally came out, he almost wanted to pull an Alan Smithy, didn't take his name off of it. Didn't happen, but it was really weird where I lost all interest. Or there was this fight scene at a truck stop. And ever watch like TV from the 70s and the 80s? And there'd be a fight scene and somebody would hit you, and then there'd always be this sound, or I'm not doing it right. I haven't been in that many fights, very few. I've watched enough of them to know that sound doesn't happen. And it's over and over and over. And then every time somebody got hit, whether it was a good guy or a bad guy, they just take a tumble in slow motion. Like, what the hell is this? And then I also came up with two other conclusions. One I told you about last week, that I think Chris Christopherson can get any woman he wanted in the 70s by doing nothing other than this.
Why was to support your point, why was the movie poster him with his shirt?
I didn't know that you saw that, but yes. Well, also, he was a lot better built in that poster than he was in real life, I'll say that.
Some artistic license.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you sort of look at the around the same time, the poster for Star Wars, Luke Skywalker isn't ripped like that either, but so be it.
That's That's true.
But Chris Christopherson was in the first scene of the film. He's flirting with Ali McGraw, who's in a car in a Jag, also referenced in the song. And he's sort of like looking just down on her, and he says, "Well, and says to the cop who pulled him over, "Well, she got no pants," something like that. Ali McGraw, Chris Christopherson didn't have to do anything. Women would just. I don't want to say that I don't get it because I totally get it. But holy shit, I wish I had that. Ali McGraw, okay, now explain maybe this one to me. Ali McGraw was a sex symbol in the 70s, and I have no idea why.
I don't know. Tastes were different in the 70s. I mean, I don't know. She's pretty.
Think so? You know what? I think I just have to, like, boldly point out I am heterosexual, and I just think I fawned over Chris Christopherson more than Ali McGraw. But the film was a hit. It's not really a cult classic now. I don't even know that song is a cult classic. I was as you and I are prone to do, we look at comments on YouTube, and there isn't a lot of fresh comments on this. Just people saying this was when music was music. Like, okay, don't know that that's necessarily the case, but it's a unique song for a unique time, done as well as it could be done with that man's voice. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I think this was a great snapshot.
I think that surmises it.
Yeah.
His voice worked perfectly for it. He found a niche. He ran with it. And
rode it to the ground.
Had some minor success.
And rode it to the ground, just like like other callbacks, like our first one, Stars on 45. He became a mayor. Did you read that?
Yes, of a small town in Illinois?
Colorado.
Somewhere. Yeah, 6 years, Colorado, 6 years as mayor. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, why not? I wonder what his campaign was. You don't vote for me, there's going to be a convoy. Maybe? I don't know. I always thought when Clint Eastwood was dabbling into... I thought when Clint Eastwood was dabbling into politics, because he was a mayor of Carmel by the Sea, and a staunch Republican, I thought, okay, this should be his campaign slogan. Go ahead, vote my way. Huh? No? Okay, fine. Well,
all right, I think we've ridden this one into the ground.
Yes, we have. All right, what do you got for us next week?
Oh, so we're going to jump to 1985, okay. I believe. And we are going to go with a TV show theme. Miami Vice.
Oh, okay. I've looked at this one. Yeah, Jan Hammer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jan Hammer. I believe it was the last instrumental to ever make the #1 on Billboard.
Okay. Could be right.
And you should be grateful because knowing your love of musicals, I really, really wanted to go with One Night in Bangkok, but it only made it to #3.
Yeah, but I love that song.
So I couldn't go there.
I love that song.
You're saved from chess.
I love that song, though.
You love that song?
I love that song. It's a guilty pleasure.
I do, too.
Yeah. It's actually
but it
one
never
thing.
Made it to #1.
It's one thing that I could karaoke. Well, yeah, because I could just say the whole thing.
You gotta go back to your bars, your massage parlors.
I'd let you watch. I would invite you, but the queens we use would not excite you.
It would not excite you.
Yes. Murray Head.
Murray Head. But anyways, we are not doing One Night in Bangkok because it didn't make #1.
Okay.
We are going to use a electro synth instrumental TV theme song that did go to #1.
Oh, okay. I already know.
The theme of Met.
I'm pretty sure this is not the last instrumental. Oh, maybe it is. Hold on. When did Axel F. from Beverly Hills Cop go #1?
Oh, I didn't know that went #1.
You know what? Maybe it didn't, but it It's around the same time.
I have no idea what we're going to talk about aside from Miami Vice and
we're gonna learn
terrible 1980s music.
We're going to learn about Jan Hammer. As I know nothing about this guy, so we're going to learn about him, how it happened, how it got there, how they chose it, and how somebody named Jan Hammer means everything to Miami. Or sounds like Miami. So there we go.
There we go. We've got a plan.
Absolutely. Who says we don't know we don't come prepared? Other than us. All right, beautiful. You stay safe.
You too. Talk to you next week.
All right, bye. Thank you all so much for listening. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming from us at notinhalloffame.com. Stay safe, everyone.